You and I are predetermined nonsense, and that's okay. You and I have predetermined consequence, and that's okay. And that's okay. You and I are locked into our destiny, and that's okay. And that's okay. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. You and I, friends and nonsense. You gotta, and that's okay. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta, and that's okay. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. And I are predetermined nonsense, have predetermined consequence. You and that's okay. You and friends and nonsense. Look out. And that's okay. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know it. You gotta know what you want. 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 Look out. You gotta know that's okay. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You and I are locked into our destiny, and that's okay. And that's okay. Nothing seems to go right. Melodies don't sound right. It's true. Days disappear. Shadows remain plainly clear. The door opens, and the fizzing in my beer slows. The door opens as it slows. I see a shade of something moving like a blanket in the wind. A it perfect to heal me in the end. The door opens and the fizzing in my beer slows. She walks by and the spinning in my head grows. The door opens as it slows. I wish that I was pretty, more pretty than reflections look tonight. But I'm past the point of caring. It's time to make a moment. Let's not make a moment. This shouldn't be a moment. The door opens and the fizzing in my beer slows. She walks by, the spinning in my head grows. When the door opens and the fizzing in my beer slows, as she walks by, oh, she walks by, the spinning in my head grows. Watch it go. The door opens and it slows. Closing sale, everything must go, nothing left behind, no wild oats to sow. It's out of my way, I'm done now, you see. You took the meat, but not my bones. Now throw away your key. One foot out the door, persistent. You are frozen in time. Oh, I love you slips out of my mind. So sail, set sail, a little bird. Just go and set sail. Set sail, set sail, a little bird. Just go and set sail. I'll take my ship away as the storm rolls in. I hope the wind is with me, and I hope you've learned that the pirate within me is sworn to the truth. Live or die by this rule. Something old and something new is the treasure within me. As sad as it seems, you will come to know what it all means to me. Set sail, little bird. Just go and set sail. Set sail, little bird. You just go now and sit still. Some pictures and some memories, ones I can't forget. On the crest of my black heart, you best not forget that the pirate never loses. He always collects one way or another. Now you can clear up all your regrets of the time you set sail with that pirate from the sky. You will remember him until that day that you die. Set sail, little bird. Now come on, just set sail. Set sail, little bird. Now I want you to set sail. Set sail, oh little bird. Now I want you to set sail. Don't forget to lose your mind tonight. Just watch me. Hello. Don't you think about responsibilities. Just feel what you want. Feel what you want tonight. I want you to say how you feel. I want you to tell me I'm no good. We'll send you on your way if you say so. You try to, but you see me staring back at you. I'm staring back at you. So have another dance with me, my dear. Move your hips like this. It's clear I'm what you need. As a tear falls down, I want you to say how you feel. I want you to tell me I'm no good. Well, don't you look back, you will miss me. Don't look back, I'm standing under the street light at night. Don't you look back, try to forget. Yeah. So just walk to me, my dear. Look inside me, and it's clear I'm a better man than him. I'm a better man than him. Then time stops. I want you to say how you feel. I want you to tell me I'm no good. Well, don't you look back, you will miss me. Don't look back, I'm standing under the street light at night. Don't you look back, try to forget. better man than him. Then time stops. It's the same road as before, and I wonder who I'll see this time. Just to touch the water and swing through the trees. Home is at memory away. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Come to think of it, I've never felt so free. My tunes are a blaring, consuming that mountain breeze. Makes me so grateful to be alive. Home is a memory away. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Please take me home. Come on. Please take me home. Please take me
All right, dudes, we are live with another Pangburn Hangout. Oh, yeah. It's Thursday. That means it's Eliyahu Day. Our resident teacher here at Pangburn, Eliyahu. Today's topic is what makes a good fiction book. We'll probably get into what makes a good book in general, but yeah, I think we're going to start in on fiction. It'll be a few minutes here before we get going. Just rallying people into the room. And we got another 5 minutes until we hit 5 p.m. Pacific time. Just going to check the audio. All right, I think we're cooking. If you didn't get a chance to see our live stream earlier today, this happened on the main Pangburn channel, youtube.com/Pangburn. The title of the live stream was Defending Richard Dawkins from Delusional Atheists. This was a skeptical analysis. This had to do with the canceling of a Richard Dawkins honor that was given to him from the American Humanist Association. And they decided to take it away from him after he asked some questions and tried to promote some honest discussion about some trans issues and social interpretations of those issues, and talking about race identity issues and politics as well. And a bunch of people thought he should be canceled for that. What up, Rusk? Rusk, what makes a good book? You guys can join us on Discord here if you wish. Or you can just kick back and enjoy the show. The conversation will start in about 4 minutes. All right, let's go. There. Now we're notified. What up,
Hey,
Eliyahu? How's it going?
how was Trav's Tav today?
What's that?
How was Trav's Tav?
Oh, it was good. Did a video defending Dawkins on the main channel. And yeah, we ended up getting a lot of new people in after that. So it was good. We were just talking about cancel culture and that kind of political discussion.
Oh, is Dawkins getting canceled?
Yeah, you'll have to check out the video, but it has to do with his, people rallying together to have old honors removed from him, like the AHA took away his Humanist of the Year award. I think it was of the year, but yeah, so stuff going down. The radical atheist types.
Right, right. Well, I'll have to look into that because I didn't realize his reputation. Well, it doesn't surprise me, but I didn't realize that his reputation was ruined too.
Well, yeah, according to some, it is. But yeah, there's my Twitter is a good place to see what's been going on. I just been retweeting some things and yeah. But anyways, moving on to your topic today.
Yeah, so I started out with what makes a good fiction book, but first I guess we can say what makes a good book. And since we're on the subject of Dawkins, I've read a couple of books by him, and I think that he's a great science writer.
I do
think he's
too.
very inspiring.
He's very clear. He doesn't he like where he could maybe use a more technical a less understood term, he doesn't. And I feel like some really bad science communicators do that to make their work sound more complicated than it is. I hear that with some people, but
Oh, make the work sound more complicated?
yeah, just for the sake of it.
You want more people to say things like sort bullshit from reality?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, my argument would be that is the language of the people, and then then we get into terms that try to encompass that. What up, Dal?
Yo, yo. What's the topic? Fiction?
Yeah, what makes a good fiction book? I was originally thinking what makes a good fictional character or what's an inspiring fictional character, but then I decided, well, that's maybe a little too narrow, so we can expand it to what makes a work good or great or terrible. Do you have any thoughts on that?
God, it's hard to pick. Like, if I had to pick like the most necessary thing for fiction to be good, I would have to say context. Like, just due to the fact that we are humans in this physical real world, we need to be able to relate to the fictional universe. So as long as you can weave in some sort of connection to our real reality and still obviously don't make it nonfiction, I think you can, like, that's how you get the best kind of fiction.
And I was thinking about this. I agree with you, but this is why I don't really like superhero stuff, because I feel like it's so far removed from the realm of the human condition.
Me too.
I can't relate to it.
It's so like out there. I don't watch superhero movies like Marvel movies.
You guys
Like I get that they're trying to make it seem like, oh, the Hulk deals with problems just like you and I do, and Spider-Man may be just a high school student and he's saving the world, but can he get his homework done on time? It's like, well, not really inspired by these people.
It doesn't make you think, and then absorbing so much bullets and bombs and stuff. It's just okay.
I think if you take a look at it from a more metaphorical perspective, you could relate to it a little easier. But I do get what you're saying. The less relatable the fiction is, definitely the less audience it's going to get, or the more niche the audience will get.
It makes you think on some type of meaning behind it.
Right.
Is where I get is what I take from science fiction. That's like my name movies like Interstellar, Arrival,
Hold on,
Annihilation.
So like with because I want to defend.
Oh, he's gone?
Yeah, he had to go for a second. Because I'm a big nerd, so like Superman. Let's take Superman. He's the most hated superhero and the most loved superhero. He can do anything. He can survive nukes to the face, bullets, doesn't matter. He's gonna take it and not take any damage. Even kryptonite, like in the movies, he lifted up a mountain of his only weakness and threw it into space. Like, this is literally this fictional character that can overcome anything, and that's just kind of his power set. I think even within that framework of fiction and how unrelatable Superman is as a character, I think there's still a very relatable aspect. Generally, it generally. Nick, I think I have a video.
Yeah, you're breaking up. Okay. I better.
Basically, my defense would go like the fact that he has the ability to do whatever he wants. And I think each and every one of us have been in that scenario where we have the power to change the situation, and we want to change it for the better for everyone. And it's kind of up to us in this particular moment to do the right thing. And it's more of a struggle of figuring out what is the right thing to do rather than having the power necessary to do it. So it becomes an internal self-struggle with what is it to be good. And I think once, like, if you can connect it there, you can hit this real area that even though you have this guy who can eat a nuke without taking any damage, you can still hit this really real human spot. So Superman is cool. Fuck you guys.
Well, look, I wanted to make it clear that I'm speaking for myself. I don't ever want to be the kind of person that says, "Oh, how could you like that? Shame on you."
Yeah, no, I'm just being funny, I guess.
Does anyone else in here have any other like favorite works of fiction and can articulate what makes it great?
We did this yesterday in movies of like your favorite, like one or two or three movies that are your favorite and why.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, I'd like to pivot to literature. If any of you uncultured swines have read even if it's just something that you were forced to read in high school English class.
Let's see. Do religious texts or legal standards that aren't followed in practice or that are applied hypocritically count as fiction?
I'm sure that you would, Loki, count them as fiction. So go ahead.
Well, I know Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had a pretty profound effect on how ridiculous it was.
What did you like about that, Dal?
Yes, it's funny because after the last point I just made, where I think relating to reality is the biggest thing in fiction, I think what really made me love that book was the departure from needing to relate to reality, because he literally, Douglas Adams treated concepts like an artist treats paint. He would say something like the super intelligent shade of the color blue, which is just it's a concept that makes you laugh. It's just the thing was inherently funny in a way that I've never seen a work of fiction be inherently.
What do you got, Doolittle? I mean, I have every work of Shakespeare, I would say.
There's so many works of fiction that I really enjoyed. But you know what? It's hard for me because I've been living in a world of nonfiction for probably 20 years. It's probably been 20 years since I've read a book that's fiction. I'm gonna say, like, has anyone read Dune by Frank Herbert?
No, but I actually just listened to a YouTuber give a review of that book, and said that they didn't like it because they felt that all the characters were the same.
All the characters are the same.
Yeah, that they couldn't discern like who was who. They didn't have distinct voices.
That's not really. That doesn't surprise me. Really, I mean, it's like wow. That is like, there's a fantasy world that's like far in the future, where the universe is torn in war, and the way that people get back and forth across planets is there's a navigator guild that runs all the spaceships, right? And everybody, they're like a union shop, right? And so if you want to wage war against somebody that's on a different planet, you have to go on these neutral ships but they're union shops, right? So,
Doctor, what makes a good science fiction?
it's totally plausible it's a totally plausible reality that the author paints a picture that's so vivid that you have a hard time not believing it, and they don't really make you suspend disbelief all that much. I mean, there's the parts about how the space navigators bend space to get across space and time to where you can go to interplanetary travel, and then it's all about a political struggle over this planet where they essentially mine the whole planet's operations is mining this it's called spice, but it's basically worm shit that extra dimensional worms
Well, if it sounds ridiculous to you,
stuff. It makes this stuff, and then the spice is something that when you eat it, it gives you the ability to see the past and the future, and bend space, and so there's a magical element, right? That's some technology that nobody understands, and they
drugs.
It's a kind of drugs. It's some kind of drugs where.
So it makes it good fiction.
So if it sounds ridiculous, it's bad.
But it's about a political struggle, and it's almost exactly parallel to the political struggle on Earth over oil, right? So they take something that's real in your life, which is the political struggle on Earth over oil,
Controls the spice,
and we're all fighting over this desert where we're actually just going there to mine the oil, right? And they turn that into a science fiction story. It's exactly the same story. All these other countries are fighting over the oil. And I don't know. To me, it's just like you can really get it when you read that story. You can really get into it, and at least I did, and probably because it starts with something. There's this sort of a basis of reality, right? And the main character is like he's like a hero, and as he experiences more and more of eating the spice and stuff, he realizes that he's actually a product of genetic engineering, and he has all these superpowers in terms of being able to control other people's minds and see the future, but he can't necessarily control the future because all the different actions that he proposes for himself end up with the same undesirable consequences. So it's like, he's like struggling with this dilemma over choosing one way or another when all the different paths lead to the same future that he's trying to avoid. So there's this very real human struggle, and there's political struggles amongst factions, and it's relatable to the real world that we live in now. And
the science of it being believable or not as well.
The science of it being believable.
Yeah, I mean, like you say that it has to
yeah,
come across in a certain way where it's kind of like it doesn't come across as ridiculous. It's
yeah, they don't, when they talk about the science of going across planetary travel, they don't present it in a way that sounds like it's implausible. It's not
like
it's
a
not
wormhole travel time.
It's not a mismatch. Yeah, it's not a mismatch with relativity. It's just
it puts out the hypotheticals of science, of theories that of hypothetical theories of science.
No, it's not like that. No, the author is not like a science fiction. He's not a science writer like freaking Star Trek ideas of trying to actually figure out what the future might look like. He's trying to describe the political struggle over what's the energy source that actually enables us to travel across space and time. He doesn't go into so much detail that it becomes implausible.
Could it be subjective in a person's view of it, something being sounding, like a crazy?
Well, normally
idea.
normally this kind of stuff bothers me if they go into too much detail about the science, because the science fiction writers aren't scientists, and so if they go into too much detail and you do know something about quantum physics, you're like, okay, they are totally pulling this out of their ass. It would be nice if you just said,
it totally leaves it in the realm of fiction fantasy. It totally leaves the space travel in the realm of fiction fantasy. It's just the Space Guild navigators have learned to eat the spice and breathe it and use it to bend space and time, and that's how they get across planets. It's like it doesn't really. Yeah, it's maybe it's plausible that that's how we that somebody can use a internal mental thought power to bend space and time. But if you don't believe it, like, that's not what the story's about.
No, I'm asking, is it subjective?
Right?
Like, what if somebody does twinkle their nose in there in the galaxy, like Bewitch, and they have
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just
one
saying
person showing the more sciencey route, and it's like, well, hey, the Bewitch, that route with the twinkle of the nose, that's more out there than.
No, I'm just saying
that seems more cool.
The story's about a political struggle and human internal struggles in terms of trying to find the right thing to do when every path that you can see leads to a horrible outcome.
Right. Now that's a tragedy.
Oh yeah, it's a freaking massive the whole story is a massive tragedy. It's like that, like the protagonist is an all-powerful being who cannot find a path that leads to something other than destruction.
But like a theory of traveling to another galaxy, and you see it being done by traveling a wormhole, that is a good example of a scientific, science movie. Because it's not saying it's something that's argued, but those things that are argued that are hypothetical, you're putting it in a movie. It's not conclude that's impossible or possible. It's just
that doesn't have anything to do with Dune. Dune
Yeah.
is all about the internal struggle of the protagonist.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about the science
Yeah.
fiction part of the movie in
But
arguing science.
Doc, it sounds like you also care a lot about the world building, as opposed to maybe pacing or characters. I mean, I don't know. Dune looks huge when I see it. It seems like it's going to be slow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the the novel is like 1,000. I don't know. It's a pretty freaking thick novel. Like the first one, the first book is pretty thick, and you get about a third of the way through it, and it's like, how am I ever gonna go to sleep at night until I finish reading this book?
Oh wow. Okay, then that's not
it's the
slow
book.
at all.
No, the book is freaking. So the book is so freaking engrossing. Like, there haven't been very many books that I've read in my life where I just like can't put it down until I'm done with it.
Yeah, because you know what book I find is not engrossing? Lord of the Rings. It-
Yeah, I always put
got
that
this
one down. Yeah, the
you got
movies
this
are great.
amazing. Yeah, the movies are great. You've got this insane world. I really like the characters. I think they're all really interesting, but it's so slow. Like, gosh, I remember reading it in middle school and then trying to read it later in adult life and being like, how did I do this?
Well, you know how Tolkien wrote that, right? He built the world and all the languages and all the characters from the bottom up, and then had to write a story there and wanted to put as much of the lore into it as he could. The guy was a DM. He just railroaded you into reading about Tom Bombadil for 6 chapters, and he's not even in the story.
Tom Bombadil. I hate that part.
Yeah, he's not he's not in a rush to say anything. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't mind to read. I don't care if a book is 2,000 pages as long as something constructive is happening all the time.
Well, I would highly recommend reading the first book of Dune and the second one, and I don't know about the third one.
Stop being written by Frank Herbert.
His children started reading it, writing it.
Terrible, terrible.
Doctor, what was your opinion on Annihilation? Your viewpoint? Because a lot of people have different viewpoints. I just was curious.
I didn't read that one.
No, I'm talking. Okay. No, I mean if you saw the movie.
Sorry, I thought we were talking about books.
No, I'm just asking you a question about Annihilation.
You're asking me a question about a movie I didn't watch.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How about Jurassic Park as a book, as a fantasy idea? There's something really intriguing about those kind of fantasies that could become a reality one day that give rise to like new forms of life. Something I've always liked about that.
I have this. I love choose your own adventure books. I don't know how you guys like them.
I remember those. Give yourself goosebumps.
Yeah, there's apps you can get on your phone and stuff, and I've put a little too much money into it, more than I'd like to admit. But there was one that I found where you create a robot, and the entire thing is basically about what you put into this life form and then what it goes about doing. The options span from it killing everyone, including you, to making a global heaven. It's just, and it was a pretty interesting thing like that. And
What book is that?
hold on.
It reminds me of Ex Machina.
Now, while he's looking that up, Hang, could you explain why you love Shakespeare?
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm turned up here.
Let me count the ways.
Well, I mean, where to start here? There is. I find that there is always something juicy in every piece of Shakespearean text. And I love the mystery of the writing and then getting used to reading or performing all of the mysteries and nuances that you continue to unveil as you look more at the text. So to me, it's like a lot of it is about the rhythm, the iambic pentameter, and the Old English terminology and words that he invented that just help with the flow of some of his most famous speeches. His I love his the imagination that comes out of all of his works, the invocation of ghosts, ghost realms, spirits, witches, devils, evil, inherent evilness within characters like Iago and Othello. And also I think he still is only one of the writers in the history of humanity who can really encapsulate love in text. And if you look at all the love stories that really click nowadays, and people are like, wow, those are some structures that I can really relate to. A lot of this stuff came from Shakespeare. So I think he's an inventor of one of the greatest languages of quantizing what it means to be a human, and he does that in play form. And those are some of the things. But his imagination is infectious, with powerful wizards and all of these. All these different modes that he would use in the delivery of the story. So, one of my favorite pieces is tattooed on the bottom of my left arm, and it's "I will live in thy heart, die in thy lap, and be buried in thy eyes." And this is from Much Ado About Nothing, and this is Benedict's message. So I will live in thy heart, die in thy lap, and be buried in thy eyes. To die, the way he used it, meant to have a sexual orgasm. And so he's dying in her lap and he's being buried in her eyes. So he is having an orgasm while climaxing while looking into her eyes. So in that short sentence, he is created so much about, even if it's an idealistic view of what sex will be or might be in your wildest fantasy. And I mean his comedies too, like his sense of humor. You see all of these forms of sense of humor that you see in what's they're called, the famous British films, slapstick comedy and these things. What's that? What's the Monty Python? So like
John Cleese.
Yeah. So very
Or even,
much a lot of those modes you see in Monty Python. Some of these are inventions of
what was
Shakespeare.
Red, what was that guy's name? Red something.
Red
It's like a
Skeleton?
precursor. Yeah, Red Skeleton from back in the day.
Red Skeleton. Not Skeleton.
Red Skeleton. No.
Yeah, that was kind of like the beginning of slapstick. Three Stooges as well was another. British just became like silly and with their words. It's kind of interesting.
So, who are your favorite Pythons, Travis?
I actually don't know that series good enough to even choose. Like I've only seen the Monty Python films a couple times.
Hit her in the stomach with a soft pillow?
I do really enjoy
Bring out
that.
your dead.
I really do enjoy that skit of fighting that knight who keeps getting his limbs cut off.
Yeah, the black knight.
But a flesh wound.
It's only a flesh wound.
No,
Travis,
you didn't.
Travis, have you read or seen the play Coriolanus?
Yeah. I've
Is that not the Richard Dawkins story of modern day?
of modern day? You'd think so. I have to be reminded on all the characters in that. That one's a thick read.
So that one's like, so this guy is a general in the army, right?
Yes.
And they frickin' lay siege to a city, and the entire army gets slaughtered except for him, essentially, him and a few,
Right.
A few stragglers, and they end up winning with like massive casualties, and he's the only one left standing, and he becomes a great hero of the cause of Rome, and
Right.
and they elect him to be a consul, which is one of three of the main presidents of Rome back in before, I guess it was the Roman Republic, right before they turned into an empire,
Right.
and so he gets elected to public office, though he doesn't want it. He becomes a moral thought leader for the whole country of Rome, and in the end, the mob ends up turning on him when circumstances change, and he ends up getting run out of town, essentially. Right?
Yeah, there's a 2011 film. I think it might. Yeah, it's a film adaptation. Of course, I remember seeing that film.
Isn't that kind of weird? They never considered redoing Monty Python and the Holy Grail, or just I think they did it.
Why would anyone redo it?
Well, because they did it. They did it for like $140,000 or something like that, and it was funded by Led Zeppelin and some other British rock band. Can't remember. It was quite interesting. It was like you guys never decided to go remake it now that you're all.
Why would you freaking remake that? It's like
Why not?
Just the low budgetness of it is what makes it so awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a few Monty Python guys around. They can oversee it.
Of course, there were these weird characters who showed up in some of the Bonzo Dog Band's BBC TV shows before they became a better-known group, who were thought to be people like Paul McCartney using an alias, popping in with what started off as a child's cartoon show until they started talking about Ali Baba's camel. He's got what we all want, lots of LSD and among other things, or Sex in the Moonlight. And apparently somebody started thinking that maybe that wasn't any longer such a children's show.
In response to what Trav was saying about Shakespeare, I haven't read Shakespeare since I was in high school, and when I was reading it then I didn't really get it, and I think that's because I didn't watch the plays. Like I remember reading 12 Angry Men, the play in high school, and not being that impressed. But when I saw the movie, I realized why it was so powerful. It's like I don't really think plays are meant to be just read. Like you got to see it.
Yeah, they're supposed to be stood up and dramatized. That's what they were written. The thing about sitting down and looking at a chunk of Shakespeare text is, I just find that the linguistic beauty in this effortless, you couldn't imagine that speech in any other way after you see it written the way he wrote it. It's one of those things when you read it, it's just like there is something artistically perfect about not every piece of his work, but with some of his speeches, it's just it's the same feeling you have with your favorite poetry, that when you read it, you're just like, if someone was to recite that and get even one syllable or one beat wrong while reading that, you would just go bonkers. You'd be like, no. If it's and I feel that way about Shakespeare.
How about Rocky Horror Show?
Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
You know, I managed to pick up both the score and the script for that.
Yeah, I have
And
the
of course,
score and script in my place here too. Yeah.
and I've only seen that once though, as opposed to the picture show, which of course would be the movie variants. But
Right.
yeah, and the Palace Theater in New Haven, Connecticut, with Meatloaf making a guest appearance.
Right.
Sort of, it's interesting seeing how they actually staged the original, London equivalent of Broadway versus trying to make a movie out of it. Yeah.
Oh, Transylvanian.
How'd you do? I see you've met my faithful handyman.
And I ask for nothing,
Yeah.
and so you shall have in abundance.
And you shall have it in abundance.
Curry.
How about Grim? You got a favorite novel or fiction book?
Kind of like I always like the Michael Crichtons. I like fiction that takes the real variables of the world, right? Like totally plausible. Like Interstellar really did it for me, where it was like we could do this according to science and physics with a little bit of inflation there on the science, but then they go down a real path that humanity can go down. But what's really cool about when books and movies are done like that, it provides this future for humanity to kind of take a piece of it and build itself in that direction. Like, can you imagine building a bunch of stuff in space just because because scientists were just inspired by like Star Trek and shit, and you're just like, and that created like this love of space, and we design things in space, and there's even things in space right now that have Star Trek logos on them just because it inspired the people and humanity to do it, because it was based off like what we're capable of, rather than like out of world craziness and just like just the real creative, which I enjoy as well. But I think what really is that does it for me is just the plausibility of like, oh shit, like we could really do that. That's really cool to take it down that track, and then inspires people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely think it does, because I think that somebody's got to think it up first.
Right.
As a dream, somebody's got to dream it before it happens.
And then somebody creates a bunch of female virgin dinosaurs to run amok or something. I don't know.
All I'm hearing is Rocky Horror songs in my head right now.
Oh God, Travis needs a minute.
Just
out on your channel, Travis. Remember that was the doctor who, from Romania, who was all into their sex trade industry with MindGeek?
What's that?
There was a guy, from Romania, which is where Transylvania, of course, is a real place, and it used to be the source of like King John Sigismund historically. He seems to be gone now. You remember his name?
Oh, I have no idea.
He was active a few months back, or at some point for a while.
Oh, he was on, you mean on this Discord?
Yes.
Oh, from a Romanian. Oh, was that? Are you talking about Srijan? I don't know. Maybe
that
not.
doesn't sound. I don't know. But I'm blanking on what his username was. Yeah. He was really into the economic benefits to his country from the West buying porn.
Oh. I can't remember. You might be talking about the Robin, or
no.
Oh,
Robin's UK, isn't he?
What's that?
Robin is UK, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fit to be bred, says 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, well, I think that I think we know what Robin's favorite work of fiction is. This is probably I think this is going to go over people's heads, but look up a book called The Camp of the Saints.
I thought you were going to say
that-
Mein Kampf.
Oh,
You're
I
gonna say-
don't know.
I thought you were going to
There's
say
a-
reality.
Well, there's a novel called The Camp of the Saints that has basically been banned everywhere. You can't find a copy of this book anywhere. I mean, at least a physical copy of it, unless you want to shell out a lot of money from some collector, because you can't. It's not on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or pretty much anywhere. It's about a couple 100,000 refugees from India come to immigrate to France and they destroy it.
Yeah, it's the downfall of Western civilization through heavy immigration into France. Interesting.
Yeah.
Why was it
And,
banned?
Because the guy who wrote it, he is very liberal with his use of racial slurs to describe these immigrants. I mean, I guess you could say he's a product of his time, but you know, when you listen to him in interviews, it's hard to say whether he's just a pure racist or if he has different kinds of intentions. I mean, I don't know. He seems to think that immigration is impossible. But yeah, the book has pretty much been, you know, it's kind of a Bible for people like Robin.
Yeah, the Bible probably might have started off as a science fiction book. And ended up being taken literally.
It is kind of science fiction, right? I mean, you've got healing the blind, you've got, you know, raising the dead, you've got there's a part where there's a part where a donkey talks.
Not science fiction. I say fiction. I'm giving it too much credit in saying science fiction. That's just just like Lord of the Rings fiction.
The donkey talks. That's in Shrek, right?
Yes, yeah. So basically, the Bible is Shrek.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the reason why this topic was on my mind was because I read a book yesterday called All the Light We Cannot See. Has anyone heard of it?
I think so, but I'm not placing it. What was that like?
It won the Pulitzer Prize a couple years ago, and I was always seeing it on the shelves in bookstores, and I decided to give it a try, and I was like, it's already become one of my favorites. Like, it's got this smooth as butter writing, and you know from the beginning that there's what the climax is supposed to be. Like, you get clues from the beginning that you know you're going to be building up to something really good. So there's a lot of suspense. Then he delivers at the climax, and so it's a World War II historical fiction, which is one of my favorites.
The Camp of the Saints, or Le Camp des Saints. Kind of going back to that one, I just read a quick synopsis of it. It's basically, the way he described it was he thinks that if you have mass immigration, then racism is inevitable, and it got picked up by white supremacists. And that's why it got banned, is because people are using that book as like, look, this guy says, showing through his story.
Yeah, I remember watching an interview with him many years later. I think he's still alive, is he?
I think so. The book.
Oh, he died last year.
You know, you can
Okay.
flip that argument around, is if you got a bunch of people who are racist and you put them on an island, and they just find another avenue of dividing along something else, like hair color or eye color or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
the book also.
it's more about a mindset.
The Camp of the Saints is also a passage from Revelations during the rapture where Satan comes.
I see. This is all, but when you see the guy in interviews, when he talks about this book, he's like, we have a choice to make. When we see refugees coming into our country, do we want to invoke our tradition of Christian charity and let them in? Or do we want to save our civilization? He sees it as a binary choice. Go with our religion or our culture.
Is that the same Christian religion that interpreted doctrine of discovery to commit genocides?
Something like that. Well, it's just people.
Sure,
People don't.
peaceful
People.
sides out.
Well, I guess you could argue it's a passive genocide if you're not doing anything to save people that need saving.
Or burn people as witches that you don't agree with.
I would argue that
The charge of blasphemy.
I would argue that there's no duty to save people simply because they need to be saved. It's their own responsibility to save themselves. And the refugees,
saving in
the
that context
refugees,
means something different.
the refugees are doing the best they can to save themselves from the situation that they're trying to extract themselves from. So they are acting morally in trying to become refugees. But I think it's questionable whether saving them or not saving them is necessarily a moral or immoral act. I would say that it's amoral. The decision to save them is amoral. Their decision to save themselves is moral.
A viewpoint in the U.S. was held in the past. You ever saw gangs in New York? They call themselves natives, and people coming in.
That's fiction.
People were. Oh, that wasn't true.
Gangs of New York?
They weren't discriminatory against people coming into the country.
No, the people in Gangs of New York don't exist. It was a movie. It was fiction.
Also true.
I heard Bill the Butcher was real.
Probably in some accord, but not the way the movie probably portrays it.
Well,
So-
yeah, I mean, I guess that's how movies are, though. You're not 100%.
Pretty much.
So I mean, it's a
But
story.
there was intolerance of people
It's a
coming
story
in.
where the author is trying to make you feel a certain way. So
Yeah, but people
think-
that are different coming in and end up being able to work out.
Well, that did happen. We did have a lot of people came over here to free themselves from persecution.
Yeah, they're
in the
saying a lot of
mainland,
people they
but
were
Ireland
each other's
and-
throats, and
Ireland
they ended
and
up
Italy.
becoming Americans. This is all
they brought their
they're
fucking problems
saying.
over here. Yeah, they brought their problems over here. Pre and post Revolutionary War. So it just is what it is. And that's why they call it the melting pot.
and we still have a lot of those problems with us that they brought over here.
Yeah, people don't change that fast, unfortunately.
So
America's always
the-
been this
so the-
way. It's never
So
going to change.
immigrants come up here from the south, and they're what do you call it? Refugees.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
From a system of their own making.
Guatemalans.
Well, I don't know who the they are.
Well, I mean, even if you
Wait.
do take something like
What do you mean,
Guatemalans, right,
Southern America.
who are coming up right now and they're trying to seek refugee, like, I think people look at immigration as it changes their culture, the demographics, but it's always changing.
Right, that's what
Aren't
I
they
try to
technically
explain to
native,
people.
by the way?
Well, how are you going to get, like, for example, I know this is not germane, but how are you going to get, like, bikers for Trump to see the benefits of immigration?
Maybe some do
That's a good
already.
question.
No, I
Maybe.
don't think that's the right. I don't think that's the right
No.
question. It's a half opinion. This one half opinion versus another half opinion. So a half opinion is when you look at only the benefits
I can answer that.
of only the benefits or only
Can
the
I answer
costs, and the
Well,
the
let me
bikers
finish.
for trucks, the bikers for Trump are complaining about the costs, and I guess what you would say the left in the U.S. are highlighting only the benefits without considering the costs. So there's two people with a half opinion arguing against each other.
I mean, the benefits change in a way that are helpful
A
to them,
yin and a yang.
they'll be okay with it. Because that's how
Yeah,
America
so-
was throughout time.
There's
People were
a
always
cause and
kumbaya,
effect.
but it changed.
Return
A
on
lot of things
investment
that would
for the immigration.
People change over time. A lot of things that
So
they're against
I-
in the past, they're for now. And so
Yes.
that's how you get change. The
Why do you-
societal norms change in a
Explain
way
why
that is
change is
beneficial, and
necessarily
people
good.
are okay. societal norms change in a way that is beneficial and people are okay with it, they end up adapting to the change.
Change.
Well, you chirping
Explain why-
about change in vague and unspecific terms is meaningless, right?
Well, if it's not, if
On
the
the
change is
specifics.
not good, then it wouldn't work out. It would, you know, that's how potential is. If it can't happen, then it wouldn't. You try, you apply things in a way that is beneficial, where it includes others, and you're okay with it, and your intolerance ways that you have is in the past. It's no longer the case, because people throughout the time of America was intolerant in many ways, but it's now over time it changed, and they changed it because of the changes of the environment.
Yeah, so those are some changes that you're describing that may be for the better. Some of the changes that may be for the worse is how much.
Monarchism was the same way. People ruling themselves, that's a crazy fucking thought. I mean, democratic republic governing, what the fuck is that? But after a while, you know, it
Immigration has
grew to a
nothing
point.
to do
It
with
grew up to a
monarchism.
point where people had to just saw the benefits of it, and they adapted.
Nivik, you're
Those
going
two
off
issues
on
are
a tangent
orthogonal.
here.
Sorry, I think I interrupted you, Travis.
Yeah, I got you.
I was saying that, well, I was originally going to go back to Doc's point, in that I agree with his half-opinion statement. I mean, the left generally does a pretty poor job of looking at the economic costs of immigration, and the right does a poor job of outlining what they mean when they talk about cultural shifts happening because of immigration.
A lot of right policies in other countries end up causing immigration that they support.
I think it's easier than that. I think it's you know, the immigrants themselves are trying to act in a moral manner, which is to do with the best what's the best for themselves and their families. And if that means coming here, then if that's their best hope, right, then that's what they're going to try to do. And
They're already here. It's America.
no,
I don't know exactly what you mean by that. I mean, Nivik, do you live in
America's
America?
a country of immigrants.
no, we're not a country of immigrants.
A lot of people from different, backgrounds.
Almost nobody in America was not born here.
No, man, I'm talking about the incoming. There's many different last names in origin of the path.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I'm not an immigrant, and neither are you, and neither is anybody else on this channel, I would suppose. There might be one. I
Ancestors
would
going
say
back
on
to
average,
certain times, yes.
just how many people? There's 5 people. I would say if there's only 5 people in here, I would say there's less than a 25% chance that someone in this channel is an immigrant.
I mean,
Well,
ancestors going back to a certain
well,
time, yeah. Maybe
well,
mine
Pang's
is
not
because
American,
my name,
so-
my last name goes
Well,
back to the beginning of this country.
Well, I know that
Immigrated, recently enough that I knew living immigrant members of my ancestors when I was a young kid. So,
but that doesn't make you an immigrant.
no, it makes the heritage one of immigrants, not most of us now alive.
But that's true of everyone everywhere in the world.
Although this country, as that goes, is relatively recent for large countries.
So most of us only have to look back 3 or 4 generations before we find an immigrant.
So, which means
In the rest of the world, it's probably an average of 6 or 8.
So the same will apply to the people that come in. After time, they're not gonna. Their children's children aren't gonna be immigrants either.
Right. So we're not saying that the immigrants themselves are immoral for trying to immigrate, and we're not saying that the society that they're trying to immigrate into is immoral for attempting to limit the immigration to a reasonable amount. Right. So Republicans, right wingers are not against. They're not against immigration. They're just against unlimited immigration. So
why would they not be against immigration if it's going to take away their power?
No. right wingers and Republicans are not against immigration. There's nobody that's nobody. I mean, I don't want to say nobody, but very, very, very few people are actually against immigration. Okay, I'm
being
on the right
realistic.
end of this. I'm on the right end of the spectrum. My wife is a foreign. Well, she's a citizen now, but she immigrated to this country. My daughter is a half, first generation immigrant. Jeb Bush, married to a Mexican lady that's actually from Mexico.
Donald Trump.
It's Donald Trump.
There you
Donald Trump
go.
married to an immigrant from Czechoslovakia. It is not the least bit
Guess
uncommon
that's a good
for someone on the
example.
right wing to
Donald
have
Trump married
immigrants
to an
in their family and accept them. But the question is whether they follow the legal process for immigration.
You compare the legal process in the past to now, it'll be.
What are you laughing about?
It's a way. It's like
about?
1,000
Trump
times
uses
more
high
harder to
budget
get
lawyers
in.
as fixers after the fact. After Melania was an illegal at first.
So it's
when I married my wife, she was an illegal immigrant in Japan, and I had to bribe a politician to get her to be allowed to go to the U.S. without going to jail first.
Really? What did that cost? What's their process for bribery?
It's only $250. But I was a member of the military, and I had special access to the representative's office, and it only cost $250. But I was able to keep my wife out of jail and get her visa in an expedited manner.
So
Give
not
me
get
your
out
tired,
of
your
free, but cheap.
give me your tired, your poor, your huddle masses. You're going to be free.
What the fuck are you
Yeah,
talking about?
it's not
That's
the
a
same
pub.
thing as coming into the country and going on the public dole and sticking your hand in the public trough the second you get here.
They
Or
contribute.
coming in illegally without going through at least some legal process, and getting arrested and then released into the U.S. and not showing up to your court date for adjudication.
They contribute to society. They don't burden it.
Yeah, I'm a lot more close. I mean, I'm a lot more close to open borders than you might think. But I mean, I'm just trying to say that I don't want people to become a financial burden on the rest of us.
Yeah. So just the fact that you say they contribute to society means you're othering the immigrants. So there. Why are you othering them, Vivek?
I mean, look at
the act of immigration is a moral act in most cases. Nobody disrespects that. I don't think there's anyone that argues against that. Almost everybody that's immigrant is doing it for a moral reason. And the question is just how many of them can we take without unduly affecting the lives of the people that are in the society that they're immigrating to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like that was said in the past. I mean, like people ancestors in the past went through the same thing, man.
The hell are you talking about?
You know, people ancestors coming into the country, they came in the same way, and they
No,
you
they
know,
didn't.
and they ended up actually easier.
Nah.
All you had to do was just
No, they didn't.
dress nice and not look dirty.
No, that's not true.
Oh, it was strict. Is now?
Not true.
No, man. All you have to do is get on a boat and you're good.
Boat from where?
From your country. Coming to America.
How much did it cost? How much did it cost? How much did it cost for papers? What did you have to do once you got here to earn your citizenship?
All you have to do
I'll
is
tell you
not
what
be
my
dirty
great
and you're
grandparents
good.
had to do to earn their citizenship. They freaking had to migrate to California, take 50 acres of land and turn it into a farm and farm it for 20 years before they got their citizenship. And then they gave their children to the war.
But they get that they came to the country
And-
though, right?
And my great grandparents died not being citizens.
But they came to the
But
country.
my grandparents were citizens.
So were you okay with them coming into the country or not?
Absolutely.
Okay, so people that come into the
But
country, getting
there was
citizenship
a
ain't easy either.
sacrifice
You know
there.
why? Because the
There was a
politicians don't want
sacrifice.
the voting power against them. Is why. It's
No,
politically
it's
they
not
don't
about
want that.
the voting power. It's not about the voting power. If we give unlimited access to our borders to anyone that wants it, then
Yes,
we are not
having
in control
being
of
able to
our
vote is
country.
voting power.
If we give unlimited access to our borders to anyone that wants to come across, and we let anyone that wants to come across to be
If you're a
citizens,
citizen, you have say. That's why they didn't get the
then
citizenship.
There's one of the big problems that
then
we've
no.
seen in
The
our
question is
lifetime
whether
is
outsiders or
you know,
insiders determine the country.
They didn't get their
the
citizenship
the
because they had
level of
say.
illegal and the
And
levels
they
of
don't want that.
immigration broken our historic design. We used to have a system where it was presumed that nearly all immigrants tried to naturalize within 10 years or one census interval. And, in the recent decades, that doesn't happen. But on the census, we count them for voting district purposes, but they don't become citizens. And so we have a major mismatch in the government design of who's counted for what parts of the power structure.
And their children are not enrolled in selective service.
So conservatives argue that all the time. The Democrats just want votes.
Here's the best way to become a citizen: join the military. You can be a citizen within 3 years.
You can raid the country that you're fleeing from.
You can just
Drop
leave
bombs
the
on
country
it.
that you're freeing from, and at your own whim, go into somebody else's country and sneak in.
Drop bombs in your own country.
Drop bombs on your mom.
Well, hang on a minute. It's not their country anymore if they've left, is it?
And
No, I
do it
guess
by
not. Ha ha. I'm over
Eric,
here. You're over
remote
there.
control room and not even be shot at.
America.
You guys realize I left you alone for 5 minutes and you guys went to politics.
I know, right?
No, we're talking about fiction here, Dalsu. We're talking about fiction. Nivik has this fiction that all people that ever came to this country are illegal immigrants, and they should all be treated the same regardless of how they came here.
I didn't say illegal. I'm talking about making it easier to come in. So you can change the rules for people to come in easier.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Legally.
Let's change the rules. Yes, yeah. Propose a new rule. Let's hear it. And you
Have them
propose a good rule, and I'll
make it
start
easier for
advocating
people to
for it.
come in. That's the rule. I don't know
That's
how
not a
to
rule.
do it, but
What did
it's
you
No,
say,
that's not a
whoever wants to
rule.
come,
I
give
didn't
me you're
hear
tired,
Nivik.
you're poor, you're weak.
Make it easier. It's not a rule.
Okay,
No,
let me
that's
see.
absolutely a rule. The rule
Okay,
is
let me see.
make it easier. Simple as that.
Okay,
Where
let me
I
see.
come from, there's
How
only
do we
one
do
rule,
that? Doesn't
and
matter.
that
Just
rule
do
let
it.
me see.
make it easier.
You can come in and you can apply for citizenship.
Simple.
And you can
Done.
what do you call it?
Anyone?
Okay.
Anyone in the world can come
if
in?
okay, let me
Any number?
Well, can I talk? You come in and you say you're fleeing from
No.
you have to
If
you have
you
to say
have
you're
to think
fleeing
about
from
what they're fleeing from, then it doesn't count. That's not a good rule.
you're fleeing from a harsh situation
Fleeing from Viking aliens that are raiding your country from space.
No, you're
Isn't that
fleeing, you're in a
fleeing
battle
from?
area and you're fleeing for your survival. It's
Why,
it's
why,
hard it's hard where you
why do
are
I have
and
to accept somebody into my
you want
culture just because
political.
they're fleeing? Why do I
forgot the technical
have a
term for
duty?
it, but
Why do
if
I
you
have
say
a duty to protect a person just because they're fleeing from a place that they failed to protect? What makes me have a duty to the person that's fleeing?
Because you're a
because
nice guy.
those who
You're
identify
a
in
nice
American
guy.
values, you have that duty to take them in as a citizen. That's why.
No, I don't. I don't have that duty.
Yeah, you do. Statute.
No, I do not.
Well, it
Give me your
depends.
tired, you're
Does
poor.
not say
It depends if
Doesn't say in the
you
Constitution.
feel morally inclined to.
That's what America's based off of. Those who identify in its values are welcomed.
To be fair,
People just want a power structure. They don't want an idea. They don't like the idea of people
time and
having.
again, they're coming from socialist countries that vote socialist. They don't vote American.
And you'd say, I get critical.
But
Dalsy, what's your favorite fiction?
my favorite fiction. Oh, dude.
Back to the topic.
I made up this one. So since we're being fast and loose
Don't you mean communism?
fiction,
The Communist Party said so.
Everything's communism.
Let Dal finish.
so
Beware.
I came up with this conspiracy theory that the Nazis that fled to Argentina actually
I met some of them.
they developed CRISPR way early, and they augmented their Nazi genes, their perfect Aryan genes, till they were hummingbirds. And as they merged with the hummingbird population, their plan is to eliminate all of the other pollinators, bees and whatnot. So they're killing off all the bees to starve us all out, so that they can then have their secret Nazi communities where the hummingbirds, pollinate all the flowers and food. And then once we're all dead, they're gonna reemerge from their hidden areas and take over the world.
It sounds like a country song.
It will be.
That's brilliant. So Nazi, you know what? I actually met some. I've actually met some Nazi Argentina refugees when I was in Argentina a couple of years ago, and I got a chance to tour their ranch. They have ranches out on the Pampas where tourists go and they do like dude ranch stuff, like ride horses, and they have these people out there that are native Argentinians that just are really in love with horses. I don't remember what the names of the people are, but they're I guess the native Argentinians, when the people with horses came, they fell in love with the horses. They were like ordinary indigenous folks or whatever, and the farmers came with all their horses, and the people like would sit by the fence and wait for the horses to come by, and they would kiss the horses' faces and stuff like that. And eventually they learned to ride horses bareback and all kinds of other stuff. And if you go out on these ranches on the Pampas, you can have, they're called gauchos, right? Is that right? Is that what it's called? Gauchos? Anyway, they have this show where these gauchos are, like dancing with the horses, and like they're doing like synchronized swimming kind of moves with horses. And then you get to go and eat a wonderful barbecue and stuff like that. But it's all run by German Nazis. It's like a timeshare condo rental place out in the Pampas, and you drive down a mud road and you ride the horses and you watch the horse dancing show, and then eat barbecue, and it's pretty cool.
You're a Nazi.
But no, the whole thing is all these places are run by Nazis. They're people that came from Germany during World War II as refugees from the Nuremberg trials.
Are they descendants of Nazis, or are they
descendants of Nazis? Yeah.
Okay.
But
I wonder if they're still
Argentina's a big socialist country, and these people are all, let's just say, not exactly communists in political persuasion.
So
A
you
lot of
think-
these socialist countries are undermined by policies to screw them up.
Oh boy. Now we're heading back to politics real fast.
Nivik, stop dragging it back there.
Yeah, there's that. But the White House in Argentina, fun fact, is called the Rose House in Spanish. I'm trying to translate it.
Good figure.
The Rose House, and the paint is actually cow's blood, and that's why it's the color rose, because it's cow's blood.
deadly. What up, Sozette? What is your favorite? Is that her name? Or surname?
Scott Gozette.
That's what I said. Sozette.
Okay.
Scozette.
Scozy?
Scozy.
O's? The Scoozer?
What's your favorite story, Scoozy?
Like story or book?
Fiction.
Fiction.
Like
Any kind of
fiction?
fiction. Yeah. Can you speak a little
me
closer
think
to your
about
mic? I'm just trying to pick you up a little better.
Oh, is
Thanks.
it bad? Like, is the quality bad? Is this better?
That's way better.
You're good.
Okay. Let me think. That's such an annoying question. That's such an annoying question.
Yeah, I deflected. I gave them a conspiracy theory as my answer.
Oh. Let me think. Well, it depends. Philosophy-wise, it would be like Camus, like The Stranger. It's pretty good. And then if it's more like postmodern philosophy, I like David Foster Wallace. I haven't read Infinite Jest actually, but I've read Broom of the System and his short stories. It's pretty good. And then if it's like quintessential American fiction, then like Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian's pretty good.
And what grips you about those choices?
I think it's that. Well, okay. The most important thing about a book is that first is to be pleasing to read, and if it's difficult to read, I don't like it. Or if it's not worth the difficulty, I don't like it. And second of all, it has to be distinctly different. Like there are many books that are nice to read and pleasing to read, but they're not distinctly different. But these books are all like extremely distinctly different. Like The Stranger taught me about existentialism, and Cormac McCarthy taught me about, I guess, violence and the role of that in literature. And Broom of the System taught me about other stuff. So yeah.
Cool.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that you need to be pleased when you're reading the book. There's a lot of people that say, this is my favorite book, and it was so awful reading it, or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm just really glad that you read books for pleasure, and it's an important factor for which ones you would like. I guess would say that you like, and I'm like that with movies. It's like if I watch a movie and if it makes me upset, I'm just like, why did I do that to myself?
Yeah.
The Great Gatsby. I hated every single character in that whole book. Good book though. Don't know why.
I didn't like The Great Gatsby at all.
I hated everything about it, but I liked the experience of reading it. Like every single character was a piece of shit. I hated all of them. The story was not the best. It was very dull, drolled on, but I was interested and it kept my attention somehow throughout the entire thing. So,
Yeah, they make us read it at school. And To Kill a Mockingbird, and I don't really like them.
yeah, I don't
I'm
think.
not sure. Maybe. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I don't think they're as necessary as they're meant to be in school for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like perhaps I would enjoy them if I chanced upon it myself, but like because the school mandates me to read them, it makes it incredibly unpleasant to read.
Did you ever read any Shakespeare or get to see any of his plays live?
I haven't seen his play live, but I have a DVD of them. And yeah, but I did a lot of Shakespeare last year.
Did they make you memorize lines from like Hamlet or something?
From Macbeth. Yeah.
Do you still remember the lines from Macbeth that you had to read?
No, not at all.
Was it Double Double, Toil and Trouble, Fire Burn, and Cauldron Bubble?
No, I didn't. I was Lady
Out,
Macbeth, so I
damn
was doing
spot, out I
something.
say. 1, 2, why then 'tis time to do it. Was it that one?
No,
Oh dang.
I don't remember. Like we produced it ourselves, so we
Oh,
each
that's
had, like,
really
different
cool.
lines.
So did you guys
No,
had
it
to read
was
it like in front of class or something? What, read the lines in
yeah,
front of
it was
class? Or?
not enjoyable. I don't really like Shakespeare. Well, actually, I do. I just don't like learning it at school.
I could see how it could be stressful.
Yeah, it's just annoying. Like they overanalyze everything.
I know exactly what you mean. When I was at school, we got forced to read Animal Farm by George Orwell, and actually, I don't know. We didn't read 1984, but it was mentioned a few times, and I absolutely hated it in the school environment. I think it was just because like the teacher has to put their own political spin on everything that they're teaching you. At least that's the case in my country. But then years later, after I left school, I actually rediscovered George Orwell and read his books again on my own terms and really actually enjoyed them. It's really strange.
Yeah, like I don't like Animal Farm at all because I did it in 6th grade, and it was like just this gigantic anti-communist campaign done by our teachers. But yeah, I like 1984. I think it's a pretty pleasant and uniquely different book.
Oh God, it was 1984. Are we talking about the same book? That's not a pleasant book at all.
No, it's like it's not like pleasant in plot, but I liked reading it. Like I thought it was nice to read. I thought it was interesting to read.
I felt so depressed at the end of that. I actually thought there was going to be a happy ending.
No, but
How about
I'm saying it's like it's attractive to read.
Right.
how about Catch 22 as another classic? And
I couldn't get through that.
you couldn't
Is
get
it
through
good?
Catch 22 and tried.
Yeah, I tried, and it felt like all the characters were yelling, so I just didn't do it.
Well, they're in wartime and at risk of death and trying to deal with an awful lot of trauma.
Yeah, I'll give it another shot.
and of course, you have the class issues too of the hookers for the officers versus the enlisted men.
I recently finished The Art of Zen and Motorcycle Maintenance, and that had a pretty good plot line as far as fiction goes.
Another classic.
Yeah, it was essentially a really incredibly smart guy who grew up with an ego, kind of went insane, and thought that he learned a logical argument against logic itself, and it broke him. And then he went through like electroshock therapy and all those archaic forms of rehabilitation, and it completely reset his personality. He had a different name, and it was him grappling with this past self and the fact that he had a son that knew both of these versions of him. Very interesting.
What happened to leader tonight?
What was that?
What happened to our dear leader tonight?
I guess he's jacking off somewhere.
Wondering how far you guys have ventured into fantasy fiction.
Like what? Like Aragon. Did you read the whole Aragon series?
I didn't read it, but I know of it. I know of
You saw
it.
the
It's
movie?
on my
Did you
to-do.
see the movie?
Saw
No.
them.
Me too. I saw the movie,
Terrible movie.
and I got the little dragon figurines from Barnes and Noble, but I didn't buy the books.
It was super cheesy, the movie, but it was like, as a kid, it was one of those close ones. Oh, I just thought, what's the Never-Ending Story? You know that one?
Yeah, that was good.
I loved the animated series as a kid.
Or the Passion of the Christ.
That's not
Fantasy
fantasy
fiction, definitely.
Fantasy fiction. Lord of the Rings, the quintessential fantasy fiction.
I don't know.
The Bible. Have you guys read that?
No. I haven't seen it.
Parts.
But if you're gonna talk quintessential, I wouldn't bring Lord of the Rings up without Wheel of Time.
Lord of the Rings is certainly a classic model of society.
Wait, so explain Wheel of Time. I don't know what that is.
Or how about Stranger in a Strange Land? That's a Bible to at least 2 churches.
I want to hear what's you said Wheel of Time.
Yeah, a good friend of mine suggested it for me recently, and I took it up. I'm coursing through the first book, and there's a series of 14, I think, or 15 books, and
Holy cow!
it's it's as, I would say, as developed in lore as Lord of the Rings, with the exception of perhaps not having invented entire languages the way Tolkien has, but it's just as detailed, just as kind of a pain to get into in the beginning. Sorry to say, but they're developing a TV show for it, so people will rush to the books if you guys want to get to it first before they ruin it with the show.
We should make a Wheel of Time cryptocurrency so that we can all get in there first on that.
That's right.
Grim, are you back? Are you back with audio this time?
Yeah, I'm on my computer now. I'm just working.
Oh. We're
Howdy.
discussing what do you think are the best works of fiction and why?
Oh yeah, I thought
in terms of written language.
Yeah, I think Crichton did a really good job. I think he's one of the best, just because, like I said, he takes real science and he adapts it to what humans could possibly do. It's really neat.
Michael Crichton.
Mm-hmm.
So what? I haven't read any of his books. What titles are the ones that I might be familiar with?
The Sum of All Fears was a play on.
It was like, I think that there was a movie that they made out of that one.
Yeah, they make a lot of movies out of Mark Crichton just because it's so good. But it's like that was like people destroying the earth to make a profit, like using like climate change and stuff like that. And this is a book he wrote back in like the early 90s. And it was like, oh shit, like the guy was ahead of his time.
Yeah,
so it was kind of cool. Jurassic Park was always really cool. I know that's good, but
Michael Crichton did Jurassic Park.
Yeah, man, Crichton did Jurassic Park.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of he just does a lot of good stuff that people enjoy the books because they're obviously in your head. So really interesting.
So what makes that good? What makes that good fiction? What makes because my favorite one was Dune, and I have a real struggle with what makes it good fiction. It's like a lot of people have a hard time understanding it.
Do you think some should be just like thrown away, like fantasy fiction, over versus science fiction?
I don't know. I don't know if
Lord of the
any
Rings
art should just be thrown
versus
away.
Interstellar.
It's like somebody put a ton of work into making something just for you to appreciate. I don't know if it should just be thrown away.
Yeah, I want to rephrase Nivik's question. What's everybody's favorite genre of fiction?
Oh, okay.
Mom.
Mom fiction. That doesn't.
Mom fiction.
Honestly, my favorite genre of fiction is probably like superheroes. Like I just grew up off it, comic books and things like that. It's always really dope.
Oh
And
yeah.
Lord of the
Daredevil, like
Rings.
Daredevil and X-Men.
Yeah, well, it's just like all of it, right? Like Lord of the Rings and like X-Men, and like my favorite character of all time is Wolverine. So Logan.
We were discussing that earlier. They're saying if it could be, things could be explained in a way where it's more realistic, should be like they're explaining it. That's viewed as more good versus like
That's my
something just
favorite.
absurd that like you're thinking, no way.
That's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing to watch is things that use real science, real things that are happening in this world, and then takes humanity down a futuristic path that just could or cannot be. And like I said earlier, it just things like Star Trek. It inspires a generation.
Yeah,
Go to space.
I kind of made
it doesn't have to
hypothetical
be,
theories like a wormhole in time.
It doesn't have to be real. It has to be plausible, and it has enough tendrils to get into your reality, so that it can pull you into this,
right?
Not too far from your current
What was that?
reality.
What was that movie? It makes me think of that movie with Tim Allen. Remember the aliens or whatever, and they made this like show, like Star Trek show, and then these aliens were like, yeah, and it had I don't know.
Star Quest.
Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Star Quest.
Star Quest.
Star Quest.
These aliens show up, been based off this Star Trek like movie that Tim Allen was like, Captain Spock and Captain Kirk in. Sorry about that for the Star Trek fans. Then these aliens like made everything, and they thought that the show was real, and so they made their technology around the show, and then like kidnapped him. And it was like, all right, help us fight this bad guy. He's like, it's a fucking show. What are you guys doing? It's so good. Such a good movie. But shit like that, you're like, holy fuck.
I kind of brought up this point earlier to counter my own point of fiction necessitating being realistic, because there is like a metaphorical way that you can write entertaining fiction, and I use the example of Superman because Superman is just known as this guy who, like, literally in one of his movies, he picked up his only weakness, a mountain of it, and threw it into outer space. Like, the thing that's supposed to kill him immediately, he can just get rid of it without much difficulty, without dying. And so, like, what's the point of watching this sort of fiction? And I would say that it's because you can metaphorically track it to things in real life. Like, there's lots of stuff where you have the power to make a real difference, and it's not really a question of if you can or can't. It's a question of should I? How far? Willpower. Yeah, it's all this stuff. What is good? Like Superman, a big thing in Superman comics is how does he know he's doing the right thing? He's always trying to figure out what's the right action, because he can literally hear the heartbeat of Batman through the planet Earth and instantly fly there and grab him from beneath his feet and murder the shit out of him if he wanted to. But he doesn't ever do that. Even evil Superman doesn't do that, because the
right. And the conundrum of Superman is if you can really detect everything and you have the power to save every person from all of their follies, is it moral to do so?
Yeah, he does.
And no, it is not. No, and I think it comes down to no, it is not moral to do so. And that's, there's some things that it's moral for him to go and intervene in, but most of the ordinary human interaction, it is not moral for him to go and intervene in. And that's why he's not so busy all the time. But there are a few things where really he wishes he could have intervened, and maybe he missed it, or he forgot to do it, or he didn't, he had a lapse of judgment, like when Lois Lane ended up dying and he had to go back in time to save her. There's so many moral conundrums that Superman brings into our consciousness that it's like if you if you just look at it as a fiction, then you're missing out on like half the
I
story.
get it. Regardless of being Superman, you still have difficulty.
He can
That's the trouble of
Be-
Superman is
be-
he's only human. You know, even he's alien, but Superman is not
Yeah.
Superman. He doesn't see himself as Superman. He sees himself as Clark Kent. He sees himself as yes, I was born on a planet, but I am an Earthling. As I was raised here, and so he has these human flaws and these human issues that he has to deal with, and everybody sees a perfect man. So that's the problem with Superman, is that he still has a human worldview and feels human himself. His secret identity is Superman. He is Clark Kent.
I like that. I like that view of difficulty, because a lot of people, they identify in Superman because a lot of them, they have natural insecurities, and you see somebody that doesn't have nothing to worry about, getting shot or whatever. They can just do whatever, and it's kind of like it those insecurities that people have. It's kind of like they seeing themselves in Superman and not being scared, but in the movie they still put him in difficult situations. It's like, no, even though he's Superman and he can not worry about bullets or fire or whatever, he still has issues.
Yeah,
struggles.
Superman can travel faster, so fast he could go back in time. So he could literally retroactively like utilize eugenics on the population and kill anyone who's ever done something immoral, and basically create this completely moral human population in his present time. He's in the comics, he's absolutely capable of that, no question. But he doesn't do that even when he's a Nazi, because he doesn't know if his morals are the correct ones, and it's up to humanity to determine the real morality amongst themselves. He's just supposed to protect and guide them along the way, or whatever they write in for him to do.
How about cases where your champion of morality is pictured as a villain who turns out to have more functional ethics than the people pictured as heroes?
Like who?
This was a huge thing.
That's what I'm scratching my head over. I know I've seen some examples, but I'm blanking on what they are.
Yeah, so in Golden Age comics is what they're called. Back in the day when Superman could literally, he had super weaving, so he could weave fabrics together so strong that they would be invincible, and he could literally just make up a power and solve it. And all the heroes kind of operated like that, where they never got hurt, they never lost, they always prevented the bad guy from doing anything bad and put them in prison. And then sometime in, I think, the 80s, it kind of switched. It started with Spider-Man, I believe, and his girlfriend dying, Gwen Stacy. And ever since then, comics have kind of been on this path to get darker and darker, where it becomes, instead of the story of good beating evil, it's now this more complex, like, am I doing the right thing, all the way to, like, should I kill everybody? Because if I kill everybody, then, like, if I get Superboy Prime is one of these versions of Superman who was the Golden Age version. He was like the absolute good guy. And he came into the present day comic books where Superman needs to struggle with morality. And he looked at that Superman and said, like, you are ridiculous. You already know what's right. Just do it. And he went about and killed all the superheroes. He just wiped out every superhero in the comic book universe because he could, and he knew what was right, and he could just do it. And he would prevent the bad guys. And it was brutal. It was awesome.
I've got the polar opposite of that sort of. The movie War Games, of course, comes to the conclusion, based on tic-tac-toe, that the only way to win is not to play. And there's an Asian representation of that as the concept of wu-wei. But the English language doesn't have a grammatically correct, under traditional language rules, way to even express that concept. We look at that as a failing to act under Protestant work ethic or Calvinist attitudes, as opposed to a positive choice sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So you would be saying that what about the superheroes that allow the like they allow more of the bad, like Superman allowing bad guys to exist so that humans can work out amongst themselves what the society is, because if you just get rid of all the bad guys, their society's not. It's like
Well,
All
that's
right.
dependent on Superman. He doesn't want to have
Yeah.
a world dependent on him.
Let me break into the
That's the whole-
Superman argument here, and we got 3 new people in since we started talking about Superman. The topic is, I guess, 4 new people now. What's your favorite fiction and why? And we're talking about the written word, not necessarily the movie version. I go top to bottom, I guess. New to old. Claire, do you have any opinions on what's your favorite fiction and why?
Oh, I have way too many, but my favorite, I guess I feel like my favorite kind of fiction is definitely the fiction that goes into like dystopian worlds, like the futuristic dystopians. Just because it's just
Like Brave New World, kind of.
like Brave New World. The most recent one I read, which I read a lot of like young adult or like teenage books because I teach teenage, English courses. I read a book called Scythe, and it's like where like humans can't die. And so they have these people that go around the world or go around the earth and like kill people as if like random deaths to help with population. But it's just so I don't know what about it. I think I just like to think about the future and what it could be. But yeah,
Sci-fi.
sci-fi. Yeah,
So you said people can't die. Is that
yeah. They like they were so far.
is that Tennessee accent?
No, go further south.
Farther south of Tennessee, Alabama.
You're so close. Think gumbo.
Oh, damn it. Gumbo. Oh, Louisiana.
There you go. Bingo.
All right.
Pronounced-
Okay.
it's pronounced
okay. Just want to get a little
Louisiana.
flavor.
It's
Just get a little
yeah.
flavor from
It's
Alice
pronounced
in Wonderland picture.
Louisiana.
Okay. Cool.
Louisiana.
Shut up, Grim.
Yeah, we're all from
Louisiana.
different parts of the world here in this channel, so it's interesting all the different accents we get and trying to pinpoint it. Chick Vicious, did you have a favorite
I used
fiction?
to be into the comic book characters. Not so much anymore. Lately I've been more grounded and I prefer the historical fiction. And I'm really not sure why exactly. I think maybe just the imaginative aspect of it and thinking back. And I do like to read a lot of documentaries, historical biographies, so I think I like to link those things up a little bit. But yeah, not so much into the sci-fi as I used to be. Maybe it's getting a little too out there. And yeah, I got called out on being from New York because a few weeks ago I said the word bathroom, like bathroom, and everyone said, "You're from New York, aren't you?" So it was kind of funny, but
Went off. I'm not from New York. I'm from fucking Boston. Fuck you.
yeah. I know. I was like, you got New York from that, but yeah, upstate New York bathroom. It was.
Oh,
kind
I'm
of funny.
Swedish.
I said that.
Your
Yeah.
accent's a tip. Just say you're Japanese or some shit.
Right. Well, I was
fun.
I visited Massachusetts a couple of years ago, and they all at once asked me if I was from the Midwest. It was interesting. I said, no, I haven't heard that one before.
That is. As a guy who's from the Midwest, we just talk pretty slow. We slow it way
down. Oh, we lost our Louisiana native. So, Wise Ape, how about your favorite fiction?
Oh, it's a long time no talk.
I like The Matrix and things that relate to artificial intelligence. Different movies like that. So
Transcendence. Did you see that one?
yeah, remind me what that's about. But I think
Oh, I forgot his name. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp downloaded his consciousness into a computer and became one with the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah,
Westworld.
Yeah, I haven't seen Westworld, but
Oh, geez.
things that I think that really could happen someday, like that part of science fiction, really, it's intriguing.
What about Ex Machina?
But The Walking Dead.
I haven't heard of that, but
Oh,
Ex
Ex
Machina.
Machina's it's about I don't want
AI.
I mean, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's about sort of AI, like some guy recruits someone to help him build the AI, and it's like he's already actually got it perfected. He's just trying to fuck with the guy that's that's in there to help him.
Oh,
Ghost in
yeah.
the Shell was a
to do the
good
Turing test
depiction.
for him. And
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Original Ghost in the Shell anime was a good play on AI.
Ghost in the Shell. Yeah.
We haven't
It was
gone.
a really good one.
How many weebs do we have in here?
Weebs. I've been
Weebs?
watching anime since the 90s. Is that making me a weeb?
My daughter's a weeb, I'm sorry to say.
What's a weeb?
But like,
weeb is short for weeaboo, which is a derogatory term for a human child who has been engulfed in the world of Japanese anime.
It's not a dweeb. I'm just a dweeb with a D.
But if you're a weeb and you still consider yourself a weeb when you're 25, then you might have a psychological problem.
What's wrong with LARPing, man?
Nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with LARPing, but you can't let it get in the
LARP.
way of your real life.
Well, I've got a family and job, so I can't LARP.
Well, hey, Grim, we could we could set a date, go to a park somewhere, buy some rubber swords, beat the shit out of each other. It's a fun day.
Okay.
Fun for the.
I think I'd bring disc golfs. I think I'd bring like discs.
It's not LARPing if your sword is rubber.
If I brought discs for disc golfing, would you rather do that or disc golf?
Well, honestly, I'd rather play D&D inside or go disc golfing. Both those are fun. I like disc golf.
Yeah.
Would somebody tell me what LARPing is?
Live action
role play. You dress up as characters and play elves and shit. You can play a bunch of stud characters. People do all sorts of weird stuff.
It's Dungeons and Dragons, except instead of sitting around the table, you're outside playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's a little better for
And it's not necessarily Dungeons and Dragons. It might be cops in Antifa.
Yeah, usually they bean bags that you like throw at each other and you yell fireball and you hit the other guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is somebody trying to get zombie in
Okay, who else didn't say?
Portland calls themselves what, YB Young something or other?
I've got a question for after this though that's completely off topic.
Okay, zombie kill a chick. You're the last one, I think, unless Underjoyed hasn't gone. What's the
woke up?
What's
from
the fiction
deep
there
nap.
for you, there, lady?
Oh, I'm like historical fiction kind of person. I'm not into LARPing or live action or.
So when you say historical fiction, you mean like the book written by Newt Gingrich called "To Try Men's Souls"?
No, like some that come to mind are I read. God, it was super long book. I think her name was by Margaret Scott, Cleopatra, or Mary, Queen of Scots, and some of those. They're just historically based fiction books.
Okay, so do you if you were to read and or watch the play of Shakespeare's histories, do you think those would be super interesting to you, like Henry IV?
Yeah.
Those are like way up your alley.
Gooberish that way.
And should they allow female actresses, or like the Japanese kabuki require Travis to dress in drag?
I would like to see female actresses.
Outside Travis dressed in drag.
I kind
No,
of
well,
have
no,
this.
no. The Shakespeare plays are all drag. There are no
Yeah.
female
But
actors in
that
Shakespeare
is true in the kabuki tradition. There's a lot of males that dressed up in drag to play female roles.
Yeah, well, unless you
Right.
guys want to see me sumo wrestle, I'd like to see females do it.
Well, it's because they couldn't afford equal pay back then.
or because people have balls they could train sumo wrestlers to pull up inside their bodies for protection.
Hey,
Yeah.
Loki, you're not ever allowed to LARP because that requires people to put clothes on.
Oh.
Not. That is not.
Depends on what character you're playing. You could be, you know, Dick Swinger the Angry or something of, you know, the Dick Swinger clan. Just have people naked.
Loki's
You'll probably
LARPing
win.
is
You'll probably win.
Dick Dangler or something.
Dick Dangler. That's like a Western.
Dick Dangler.
That's a cowboy. I'm Dick Dangler.
Fry on Fred the Naked.
Drop him and
Watch
give
out
me
for that guy
20.
when he's LARPing.
So what was that about using vice grips inappropriately, or was it appropriately?
Clamp it. Clamp it.
You guys are so funny.
Just don't staple.
Okay, someone had an off-topic.
The off-topic one?
Someone said they had an off-topic comment.
Yeah, I had an off-topic one. Here's a question for the room. Do you think homelessness is possibly for profit when it comes to the amount of money that's being spent on it and the amount of money disappearing?
Possibly. You say possibly, or can you be more specific
do you
about
think
that?
it's do you think that there's basically what's happening right now is a lot of
more
groups
likely
are,
than not? You mean more likely
more
than
likely
not?
yeah, more likely than not that homelessness is lining more people's pockets full of money rather than actually solving
So
the issue.
you're about to explain that. Like, go on with.
I agree with that.
So there's a lot of money missing from social programs lately, and people are starting to catch on. LA and New York are becoming hotspots where the homeless population is getting out of control. Yet more amount of money over the past 5 years has been spent to tackle the homeless issue, and yet the homeless issue keeps on rising. Uses are going down the pipe, but what they're also coming up the pipe is no accountability of where these funds are actually going. Recent case, Bill de Blasio's wife just took $830 million for a humanitarian project, and it disappeared.
I mean, I don't really find that interesting. I think there's a really obvious reason why California has such a huge homeless crisis. Literally the weather, and it's not enforced. So there's people that are actually homeless. They're suffering, they're struggling, and they have nowhere else to live. And they're living in an area where it's not climately oppressive, and it's not being enforced that drastically. And in that same area, you have people that are just transients, that are just voluntarily homeless, right? These are people that are, they're not suffering from mental illness. They could actually get a job, but they want to live that lifestyle, and they're fine with it because it's not being enforced. And that's
I think the table has turned though, because you're going to need to look at the entire West Coast as that, and Seattle and Portland don't necessarily have a great climate to be houseless. That's what we call them here, our houseless neighbors. And I think that it's tilted where a lot of individuals are taking advantage and want to continue their heroin habits and other drug habits.
Well, I mean, I'd argue that addiction is sort of like people, if you're talking about people that are
90% of them. It used to be individuals who were mentally ill or coming out of
right, but people
war
choosing
with
to be addicted, I
PTSD.
think, is this you can't go that way. Like to say that people are
Now it's a
choosing.
bunch of fucking scrote balls.
Well. Regardless of all that, right? There still is these huge tax paid for programs like LA's recent $1.1 billion bond tackle roughly 45,000 homeless. You can give each motherfucker a house for that kind of price. And so the thing is that if these guys have these plans, right, to tackle the homeless issue, okay, and we keep on throwing more money at it than God, where's the money going? Because they can't seem to find it, and they can't seem to see like the results of where the money is exactly going, other than just a few food shelters. And when they come down to it, they have like roughly anywhere from 5 to 10% of the money that they can locate in action. So really, it has to do with where the fuck is this money going? Is it making more sense for them to continue the homeless issue to keep making money?
There's a lot of
Whoever they
housing.
are, whether it's social programs or contracts or whatever between the government and these private
Housing
groups.
subsidies in places where homes are incredibly expensive don't make sense for government subsidies, but we have a system that assumes subsidizing people in areas that are grossly mismatched to the idea of charitable mass housing. Like how you have rents in Harlem or out where Zombie is, that are more than people pay for 2 or 3 houses in other parts of the country.
Right, but
So
how many
like,
homeless people?
Grim, it
How
is
many
a
homeless
racket.
people are homeless because they can't afford houses? I don't think that's the case, right? There's four different aspects to homelessness, right? One would be, say mental illness. One would be drug addiction. One would be, for example, like being different.
Mentally ill.
No, but right. So, I mean, that'd be one thing. But so one would be mentally ill. One would be a drug addiction. One would be voluntarily like that you want to be part of. You're fine with being homeless because you just want to live that way. And there's different answers to all these situations, right? People that are mentally ill need different treatment than people that are addicted to substance abuse that need a different answer to people that are just trying, just want to be, living that lifestyle because it's not being enforced. And, there are many different reasons why people are homeless that need different solutions. It can't just be one answer.
Yeah, so there's another
But
side that you're
that's
not
what
considering. There's another side you're not considering, which is the supply side of the housing problem. Which right now we have certain codes and standards that require a minimum quality of a household, which in a dense urban population requires a certain cost to be able to construct it, and therefore a certain amount of rent. And a lot of most people might be more than happy to be living in a tent, and if they have the option of living in something that was a lot more like a tent and a lot less like a $2,000 a month apartment, they might be happy. But they do not have that option because we have codes and building construction requirements and fire code requirements and all kinds of things that don't let people have the options that they really want. And so there's a supply side issue in terms of housing, and there's also the issues you're talking about with do people actually want to just live a carefree life? We call them homeless, but they are just what they want to be.
And to
might be the case.
build on that, what Doolittle said is we
Go.
have NGOs, non-government organizations that have are able to kind of fly under the radar for a lot of things that our local municipalities are funding left and right. We had a culturally specific women's residential facility that I sat on the advisory board for, and they had a population cap of 38, and they never had more than 6 people in there at one time. They always had more staff than they actually had fucking residents. So there's no way to regulate whether it's a good resource for the taxpayers.
Let me get my 2 cents in here. Let me get back in there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about solving the homeless issue. I'm talking about why the fuck is it being allowed? If you gave me $1 billion, there wouldn't be any homeless people in our city. Like step one, I'd kick them all the fuck out. Like let's not allow places like Skid Row to exist. Let's not allow places in New York that have streets full of homeless people right now to exist. You can offer a program, sure, it's going to cost $1 billion to put in a facility to take care of them. Well, why are we spending money in these directions when clearly the results show that that's not working? Get them the fuck out of here. Like, they can go somewhere else. So they can, if these people want to live wherever they want to live, that's fine. And we can try to create programs and create those opportunities for them to get integrated in society. There is plenty of that going around, including jobs for the homeless. Plenty of that going around, and those operations actually take very little funding. My big issue is, why do cities allow this to allow places like Skid Row to exist? And then why do they continually ask for more money, which is not traced or tracked down to solving it? And then the problem is still getting worse, and then they're asking for more money. Like, where happened to the last money? And it's just, maybe it's becoming a business. I mean, you got to think about how many nonprofits, like the way Zombie said, is these non-government organizations that like basically take in all this money, and maybe it goes to your local, like maybe they justify it. Like if I was a politician and I was just a piece of shit, I'd be like, well, it's going to, my XYZ state people anyway, and they're going to, even if it's mostly going to admin for these nonprofits or these non-government organizations to take care of homeless people, at least the money's going somewhere, and it's still being spent on taxes, and it's just a big circle, but that's still not solving the problem.
Right. So the areas that are real homeless issue aren't just the issue of those states, right? It's a issue of the entire country. And this is one of the problems that hey, California's got a bunch of issues, Seattle has a bunch of issues, but it's not those specific states. It's that other states are kicking out people that are struggling, suffering, and they're moving to these more amiable areas, right? So it's kind of like there's a bunch of transients from other states moving to places like California that are stressing those systems. And
Yeah, but that's
Sorry.
you're not going far enough there. There are actually positive policies from other states that the like Clark County, Nevada, for example, has a busing program where if you're slightly mentally ill and you want to be homeless, they will bus you to a climate that's more favorable, such as San Diego. So there's a lot of people that get bussed out of Vegas into San Diego just because they're homeless and mentally disturbed.
In San Diego and LA and San Francisco, they all have their own buses. They all take down homeless camps and bus people out of there. And that's the busing wars that you hear about, where counties and states bus homeless people back and forth, and they offer that because it's, to them, they don't want to be cleaning up dead bodies off the street. They don't want to be cleaning up, they don't want the cops being spent, on the street. And then most importantly, what's happening a lot is that the businesses that are around these homeless encampments just basically fold up shop and leave. And it becomes a dead zone, which is that's more of a cancerous issue on your city. And I think people learned how to make a profit out of it rather than, try to actually solve it.
So there needs to be enforcement against people that, just, willingly, I'm comfortable with just being homeless, right? I don't want to have a job. I just want to live in a tent. That can be cracked down. These people can get a job, can finance like an actual rental, can do that. Certain people are suffering from mental illness that need to be housed in a mental facility, that need, like antipsychotic medication, and need these treatment to actually get them to the point that they can migrate from mental health facilities to places where they can actually get a job and function in society from that system. And certain other people need other facilities, such as drug rehab facilities, where they can get rehabilitated from certain addictions like alcohol, like opiates, and actually be brought back into society where they can get off those systems. So there's so many things that the government needs to actually have to solve these issues, right?
They have
you
it,
should
though.
never accept
They have
it.
everything they
Homelessness
need.
should never be accepted. It should be treated.
But here's the thing: is if you actually look at
$1-$2 minimum wage.
It doesn't matter. Whatever your solution you have, whether it's treatment centers, employment, hotels, apartments, mental institutions, they are all taking homeless people right now, like as many as they want. To get a homeless from off the street and into that facility
They're not doing
is one of
that,
the hardest
though.
things to do.
When's the last time? When's the last time you saw some crazy guy on the street talking to himself, like yelling at themselves?
I live right near the Bay Area,
Yes. So why is that happening in
daily?
America? Why is that happening in the richest country on planet
It's
Earth?
been happening since I was a kid. It just is what
Why?
it is.
Why is it
Because
happening?
they've
People lose their mind.
they've removed most of the mental health services, partially rightfully so. When they were performing lobotomies on women who were depressed and individuals who were suffering versus
And we did bloodletting, and we don't actually acknowledge the entire healthcare system, because at one point healthcare workers were using bloodletting as a treatment option. So
yeah,
I don't give
but
a
I
shit
don't
about
I
the
don't
time we use
necessarily think that
lobotomies. Like I really don't care about lobotomies. We're talking about 2021 right now.
right, but let's get back to the homeless people. I see a lot less homeless people that are like severely mentally ill than I see individuals who choose that lifestyle
Correct.
because
Me too.
they don't want to abide by social norms. Like
So I live.
here
Yeah.
we subsidize and give free needle exchange and have for 30 years, and so why can't we understand why we have probably the first or second highest rate of IV drug use in the nation, other than Hawaii, maybe, here in Portland. Well, because we give
Probably
free
because
fucking needles out.
so it's probably because the opiate epidemic. Because when a bunch of doctors that are
It's been
operating
before
in
the opioid
private
epidemic. This has
healthcare
been going on
systems,
for
they're
30.
right. But in terms of injecting like opiate drugs like heroin and shit like that, that's
Yeah, and meth and everything else that they inject.
It's I live near San Francisco. To give you an understanding, is they've thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, at the homelessness issue in San Francisco. And so there's every program you can imagine. But when you actually interview people, and I've actually sat with homeless people in San Fran and had these discussions, and it is people that Zombie says want to live on the street. So if I was in charge, I'd round them all up and put them in an institution, right? And I'd put them in a re-education camp and just be like, listen, yeah, you're part of a re-education camp. I know you want to live on the street, but those are our streets, and you're not allowed to live there. Nobody is, right, including you. And we'd like to have things civil, and that's just not a place to live. We have houses, we have apartments, we have places to live that you can't park your ass on the street. And we'd re-educate them on either you can integrate with society or you can fuck right off. And if you need to integrate society, here's all of the programs possible. But literally cities will not, right? I think LA just had a judge order. I was just looking something up, and they said they had an order to try to start taking down Skid Row. But cities won't do that. Don't do that. They'll just go, well, yeah, fucking let it go. And it's like it's killing your town.
In Portland, we haven't taken down encampments in over a year and a half because there was some litigation out of Boise that was impacted the Ninth Circuit Court that said you have to actually evict them, so that you have to post in that area where their tent is or whatever else, that they have 30 days to move on. And then if they do remove it, they have to keep their tent and their personal belongings in property, like you would for police property, for another 30 days. So they're just not doing it. And up and down, like the I-5 corridor looks like it looks like San Salvador.
I mean, you gotta have people that understand law and order. Otherwise, it's just chaos and problems. And honestly, these people that want to make money or whatever, or think that it's profitable, it doesn't make as much money as cleaning up your fucking town. Like that makes more money.
It sounds like
you use people to get
law and
fund.
order.
You use people for federal funding at social programs, and you don't pay into them. You pocket the money for that, and you don't want the companies being taxed to pay for that. So you just don't do anything. Because I mean that's how it is in Florida. The unemployment.
Hey, Loki, we're getting some feedback on your mic. I think you're opening up a bag of potato chips, and we can all hear it.
I'm cooking something, but I'll mute for.
Thanks. You go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, the unemployment in Florida, it is used as like they say that they have low unemployment, but they don't. That's because the unemployment system isn't acknowledging people. It's broken, so it's misleading. It's a lie that the unemployment is low. So you're getting money off of the incentive, off of people suffering, but you're not using the money to deal with the problem. You're pocketing the money. So you're pretty much profiting off of people being homeless. So, and when the federal money coming in to social programs of unemployment and food stamps, when that money coming in, it gains interest. It gains millions in interest of the state. So they make you pretty much make money off of people being homeless. It's good business.
I can't remember what money it was, but it may be the CARES Act money for, like COVID recovery for businesses. But there's been a huge racket, and I know of one case I've been involved with an individual who part of his hustle was to create a bunch of small businesses, and then he applied for this CARES Act money. He got over $1 million before they even figured it out, and this is a small-time hustler in Portland, Oregon. Like a con man. I'm sure it's happened all over the United States. He had no businesses at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that got a lot of money through that. I think more people got money through the CARES Act than that shouldn't have got money than people that actually got money. And it lined a lot of people's fucking pockets, mainly the wealthy.
Mainly hustlers.
Mainly people that knew how to put in bank applications for their businesses that were huge, knowing that it was a forgiveness loan. Now, I mean, it's still happening. There's still the SBA loans that. Fuck, man. I mean, I'm still part of these meetings, and I'm just like, oh god, these people want to, claim a ton of money, yet they laid off half their staff, yet they're going to put in a claim for all their staff.
Right.
Or maybe a company that's still doing good. Like, I never took a loan for my business. We considered it, but I was doing great.
Yeah.
I did good through the pandemic, so I was like, I'm not going to take a loan. Why? Yeah, we either want government overreach or we don't have enough government reach, because I wish the government overreached and counted every dollar that went and said, oh, fuck you, Nike or whoever that's taking these huge loans that can't cover your ass. Too bad you gotta go sell real estate. It's hard. Maybe we should put a law in that says, if we're going to be, spending taxpayer money, I'm surprised it's not a law, it probably already is, but there should be some accountability to sheer amount of fucking money that goes towards the homeless. There should be accountability on where that money has gone.
So you use the homeless as bait to get money, and you don't use the money on the homeless folks in taking the money. And then you promote these pull up your bootstraps. You make this pull up your bootstraps talk not putting, like, using the money that you have to go to social programs because you want it for yourself. So you're pretty much just breaking in because you pull up the bootstraps talk to make it hard for people to get unemployment and get stamps, because you don't want them to get the money, so you don't have to put the money into that, because you just want the money for yourself. So you just have the money coming in off of for people to be poor, but you just pretty much just pocket the money and start demonizing the poor. It's like, you guys, you got to do what you got to do. You pull up your bootstraps, roll up your sleeves.
I mean, honestly, if
So the incentive,
was in charge,
there's kind of an incentive for people to be homeless in a way. It's almost as if.
Well, not really, but it depends on what you want to do with your life. But I would say that if I was king in charge, I'd just make sure there's accountability. And if I was king in charge, I would have delegate people that are appointed to put solutions in place. Not even solutions in place, to put solutions on the table, and then use automation like voting systems on your phone and local apps that could vote and be like, hey, here's the solution for the attacking the homeless. Here's the cost and here's the plan. Just vote 1, 2, or 3, and then just let the people decide. That'd be my way to do things, right? If you live in a certain zip code or whatever. But right now we just have like where the fuck is this money going? I'm getting kind of pissed.
The problem,
it's going in their pockets.
Somebody's pocket.
The problem, Grim, is you can't have a problem and solve it too. And you can't get elected if you don't have a problem.
I would bet that's more where the incentive is. Yeah, I would think that, having that problem to attack gives you way more power. I mean, you see it everywhere. And I'm kind of hesitant to apply a nefarious, rules, just uneven-handed dealings in the background. It feels more to me like people really do want to solve problems. It seems like people have this idea that very simple solutions can be implemented. You throw money at a problem, you have this idea that this will take care of everybody, whatever this happens to be. The CARES Act, just, all the businesses can just apply for this. Oh, it'll take care of everybody under this income level unless this happens to be the case. And you don't put watches in there. You don't put tracking in there. You don't actually get regular updates and compare it to your expectations. There's no effort put into that. And it leaves, if there's enough people in there and they know you're not looking, they are going to take some for themselves too. I don't know if that makes sense. That seems to be more like what it is. It's just there's not a whole lot of nuance in there. There's not a whole lot of tracking. But I think the intentions in a lot of cases are there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just to get elected as a public official, you have to have a problem to solve. You have to be able to get up in front of people and say, here's the problem. I'm going to solve it. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get elected. And if you solve the problem, then now you can't get up and say, here's the problem. The problem's gone. Now, why should we elect you? Then somebody else comes by and identifies a different problem. So these big intractable problems that our society is faced with, like homelessness, are the ruling party continues to point at the problem as why they need to get elected, and they refuse to solve them because solving them would enable the opposing party to get an edge on them. You can't have a problem and solve it too. So solving the problem is bad for our government, or our elected officials at least. In that it makes them out of a job, or at least it opens them up to being put out of a job the next election cycle.
They think so. They'd have to try a little harder if they do solve the problem to keep themselves elected. It is possible, but that would require a lot of effort.
And money. It's all money. Elections cost so much money these days.
Yeah, and how do you get money? You identify a problem and get a special interest group that is opposed to that problem to fund your solution.
Most special interest groups that are interested in modern day solutions don't have money. The ones that are trying to solve solutions that are old and shitty solutions at best that they propose, because they're the experts in the field, even though they're just a company. You know, they're just bad, and they're.
I would bet they're the ones who have more of a vested interest in keeping the problem alive too, though, because special interest groups, they're not multifaceted. You've got the ones who, you know, attack the homeless problem. Once homelessness goes away, a politician could theoretically, and they should have other things on their agenda, of course, but that special interest group needs the homeless problem to be ongoing and particularly problematic to keep the funds coming in. I would say that they're the ones who have much more interest in keeping that problem alive.
I think so. I mean, that's the ones that are fighting for these, you know, $500 million to $1 billion bonds to take care of this shit. Taxpayer money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the guys that are fighting for this.
Politicians and special interest groups co-evolve.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should dig deeper into that, Grim. I think I want to dig deeper here in Portland on that same issue, because we've had a few NGOs that we haven't allowed to reapply for grants in our county because of misuse and misallocation of the funds that they were given. I imagine that it's very widespread.
It's across the country.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There's these independent groups that look at this stuff and they don't know where the money's going. And it's starting to be concerning. And I mean, you have this, you know, traditional, well, of course, the fucking politicians and special interest groups are lining their pockets with taxpayer money. Like, it's a guaranteed, you know, fucking goose that pays out, man, is taxes. It's rough. You know, and so one thing that I think is really neat is we're using automation now. I think there's a contract given to Microsoft, something like that they're putting in these machines for the House like Judiciary Board or whatever it is, that they basically track taxpayer money, and they're going to start tracking every fucking dollar. And I think that's amazing. Oh, it's because we need to know where all this stuff is going, except for obviously when it goes to like DARPA or some shit, when they will track it too far. So
we have such a divided society that the challenge for politicians is finding issues that are either unifying or not, you know, opposition triggers. So, you know, generally that means doing things that they can pretend are idealistic, that cause violent and property crime. Most people oppose those, so they then have a unifying issue to campaign for. You know, after doing things like, you know, drug policies, medical policies, you know, policing policies that create artificial crime, or sex policies, and that's a really perverse manipulation of government. The other side of that is we're talking about, you know, what's proper allocation of funds. You know, the people who are good at scamming government-backed and nonprofit sector systems, you know, can arrange nepotistic contractors or high administrative costs and have legitimate operating costs, quote unquote, you know, that are very much personal gain.
either way, I mean, I can see us kind of speculating here and speculating there.